What's going on, guys? Today's video is going to be a bit different from the usual. It's not a music review, although there are plenty more of those on the way. I'm working on a bunch. But I wanted to make a video for fun, one where I talk about my approach to music listening, active music listening, and also how I tend to process sounds and what goes through my head when I am listening to music. I also will touch on my philosophy for reviewing music and also why I think most critics tend to have the wrong mindset for listening to music. And if you have any suggestions for other video types or other things that you would like to see me try out on this channel, send that my way because I'm open to trying new things. For some background, I've been a fan of music for years. I grew up listening to a lot of 80s pop, rock and rap from the mid 2000s, and I started producing in the early 2010s. I must have been about like 14 at the time. This was when I was first starting to discover electronic music, and it was the genre that really inspired me to start making music of my own. I dove into the very deep EDM rabbit hole during that time, and I'm glad that I did because it opened my eyes to redefining music so that it would become something more malleable to me, something that wasn't so much a matter of black and white, but something lying in a more ambiguous state and hues of gray, something that is neither concrete nor set in stone. Music can always change. And in my mind, music always serves different purposes. I'll turn to a certain genre or artist for a specific mood or energy, and honestly, no two artists are the same. Some music is for dancing, some helps me think and focus, some helps me get pumped up, and some music just carries cultural significance for me. And I think what's also interesting is that there can be similarities in genres, um, whether it be energy or themes or instrumentation. Obviously, there will be differences between genres, but I think it's cool that they can also overlap and there can be a lot of similarities in them also. And it's for that reason that I enjoy music so much, just because each style brings its own culture and customs to the table. This is something that can be best observed in a live setting. For example, raves have their own etiquette, and so do rock shows, and so do rap shows. If you've ever been to an opera or a musical or just a classical music performance, you'll very quickly see that they are also distinct in their etiquette and the rules that you have to follow when you're there. But as a music listener, it's my duty to not be afraid to try new things because honestly, that's the only way to develop a sense of taste. Imagine if like as a kid you only ate Cheerios every day, and then one day you decide to try Cocoa Pebbles or Lucky Charms. You're either gonna really enjoy it, or you might not like it, or you might just be indifferent to it. But you won't know how you feel about it until you've finally taken the time to sit down and eat a bowl of something new. Uh, in my mind, music is the same way. I understand that it can be comforting to digest a lot of the same songs or artists often. I do that too. I'm guilty of that. But it's also beautiful to sit down and listen to something entirely new to you. That's honestly what will help expand your taste in music. And that was my mindset when I chose to start reviewing music. It was something that I had been thinking about for quite some time. And I studied music in a conventionally academic setting, and that was helpful, but I don't think it was the most fulfilling experience. Um, a lot of music education in the States, in particular, is very Western and Eurocentric, which creates, unfortunately, a lot of constraints for how music is defined. And I believe that music can be a lot more than what you would understand it to be. And you can continuously redefine music for yourself, especially when you engage with it critically and you analyze why you enjoy certain things. I'm not saying that you should write a like a 6-page essay that's double spaced MLA format um, to explain why your favorite song is your favorite song. But I think you should ask yourself important questions like, why do I enjoy this song? Or why do I enjoy this genre? Is it maybe the lyricism of the artist? Um, what musical elements do I enjoy? Is it maybe the tonality, maybe the melodies that I'm hearing? What sounds am I attracted to? If it's elements of sound design, maybe there's certain instrumentals or certain vocal performances that catch your ears. What evokes emotions in me as the listener? Is it maybe the chords that were used, or maybe the musicianship that creates an emotional response in me, or maybe it's something else, something that I haven't mentioned. It wasn't until I began asking myself questions like these that I was able to expand my horizons and continue to explore more. Factor in my desire, of course, as a music producer to grow and to grow as a songwriter. It was inevitable that I would gain a newfound appreciation and respect for the craft. But I think that you won't enjoy music until you take the time to sit with it and process why it is that you're enjoying it. And that's how I developed my approach to reviewing music. I don't think that music is the kind of thing that you can rate using like a scale. Some people use numerical scales, some people use alphabetical scales like grades in school. But how do you define parameters for what makes a certain album good if we're talking about albums and another one bad? Or like what criteria goes into defining music as being good or not good? I don't think that that makes sense. I don't think that the quality of music is something that you can or should uh, try to judge using a scale of any kind. I think that an album, for example, could have exceptional singles, but it might not be a strong project as a whole. And then might also be other albums that are strongest when you consume them as a long, cohesive project rather than cherry picking a song or three to consume on their own. I think that music is a lot like a meal. There's individual ingredients that have to come together to create a singular experience. And some meals are amazing, some meals are okay, and you know that some just aren't for you. But you won't know that until you've taken the time to taste a lot of different ingredients together. The overall listening experience can also vary, and that will depend on other factors. For example, the setting in which you find yourself, whether it be the physical or mental space that you're in. Um, you also have to take into account the sound system that you're using. That will play a role. The type of headphones you're using, or maybe you're using like a sound system, speakers, or whatever. Um, and you also have to consider how you're listening to the music. Are you using an online streaming service of some kind? Are you using YouTube or something like that? Or maybe you're using physical media like a vinyl record or a cassette tape or even a CD. Or maybe you're experiencing a certain artist or a certain type of music for the first time in a live performance. For example, if you're at a show and obviously you're there for a certain headliner, but maybe there's an opener that you've never heard before, and you're obviously forming opinions on it as you're just standing there consuming this music for the first time. Um, I think that you also have to consider the venue, the crowd, and the quality of the performance. This all will influence how you form your opinion on the music. All of this, of course, comes into play when you're consuming for the first time, when you're consuming that music and you've never heard it before. I find it's most rewarding to go into an album with the least amount of expectations possible. I understand that this is easier said than done, but like for example, when you get to know an artist or a band, you will grow to expect certain things from them, certain styles, certain tropes, maybe certain themes, certain instrumental types, or even certain melodic elements. Uh, but this is limiting, unfortunately. I see it all the time. People will say things in passing like, "Oh, I like their older music a lot better," or things like, "Oh, a lot of this music sounds the same." And I don't think that an artist should be limited to those constraints. And an artist definitely should not be limited to making the same type of music over and over. That sounds like hell. But if you respect an artist and their team, you must give their music the same respect. And that's not to say that all music will be perfect, but what I mean is that if something is bad to you, do you understand what it is that makes it bad? And once you figure that part out, are you prepared to accept the possibility that someone else might find that same music to be good? We all view and experience music differently. For example, when I listen, my attention is never focused on one element for too long. A lot of work goes into making a project, and whether it be an album or a single or something else. And I don't think that I can fully appreciate the music until I've taken the time to dissect every aspect of it. I listen to lyrics when applicable and try to understand what's being communicated to me. I also pay attention to delivery, uh, vocal performances, that kind of thing, as no two performers are the same. I also try to listen to percussive elements if there are some, and try to understand what their function is in the music. What purpose are they serving in the specific music I'm listening to? Because not all drums are built the same. So it's fun for me to focus on instrumentation, sample choices, dynamics, and variations in patterns. I also love to analyze background accompaniment. Instrumentals, of course, are going to vary from one genre to the next, and that is to be expected. I mean, after all, instrumentation types are what create genres and subgenres. And that variety in instrumentation is honestly what appeals to me. I love hearing diversity on a single track also, when it does happen and if it's executed well. And I also enjoy hearing diversity throughout an album, if I'm listening to an album, or even a set list if I'm listening to a like a DJ mix or something like that. At the end of the day, music is about conveying something to your audience through sound. And as the listener, it's not your job to convey, but to interpret. Artists and their teams put time and effort into making music, and the listener does play a role in that. Of course, we are consuming a product, but we are also making meaning out of art, and that's a beautiful thing. I would love to keep talking about music and all that good stuff, and but just for the sake of time, I wanted to keep it brief. But if you have additional like questions or maybe something you'd be interested in hearing me talk about, just let me know because I really want to try new types of videos, not just music reviews. And yeah, I mean, if you've taken the time to listen to me talk about active music listening and how I think about music and what I think about music, um, I want to thank you. And if you have music that you want to share with somebody, you can certainly send that my way. I'll take the time to listen to it when I get a chance. And if you want my feedback, I can certainly provide that as well. And with all that being said, I just want to thank you again, and I hope that you have a very wonderful day.